Hello guys, welcome back to the reaction zone. In today's lesson, we're going to look at how to solve this problem using stoichiometry. And the question is as follows. If 20 grams of calcium carbonate is treated with 20 grams of HCl, how many grams of carbon dioxide can be generated according to the equation? Now, when you look at this particular question, there are two reactants, calcium carbonate and HCl. For us to know how many grams of carbon dioxide can be generated, we need to know which of these two reactants is the limiting reagent or the limiting reactant. The limiting reactant is that reactant that is completely used up in a chemical reaction and limits the amount of products that will be formed. You can also define the limiting reactant as that reactant that is going to give the least amount of product. So to solve this problem, what we do is to assume that each of these reactants is the limiting reactant and then find out how much of CO2 will each of the reactants give. The one that gives the least amount of CO2 is the limiting reactant and is the answer to the question. So, the molar mass of calcium carbonate is 100 grams. The molar mass of 2 moles of HCl is 71 grams. And the molar mass of carbon dioxide is 44 grams. So, let us start. Assuming that calcium carbonate is limited. If we are assuming that calcium carbonate is the limiting reagent, then it means that we're going to say 100 grams of calcium carbonate will give us 44 grams of CO2. So 100 grams of CaCO3 will be equal to 44 grams of CO2. According to the question, we have 20 grams of calcium carbonate. So if 20 grams of calcium carbonate is equal to X grams of CO2, when you cross multiply, you have X times 100 is going to be equal to 44 times 20. Then X is going to be 44 times 20 over 100. This 0 will cancel this 0. 2 here 1, 2 here 5. So what we have will be 44 divided by 5. And this is going to give us 8.8 grams of CO2. So it means that if we assume that calcium carbonate is the limiting reagent, it is going to give us 8.8 grams of CO2 if 20 grams of calcium carbonate is treated with 20 grams of HCl. Also, we also have to assume that HCl is the limiting reagent. So assuming that HCl is limiting, from making this assumption, it means that from the stoichiometric equation that 71 grams of HCl will give 44 grams of CO2. So 71 grams of HCl will be equal to 44 grams of carbon dioxide. Now, if this is the case, so we say if 20 grams of HCl, because the mass of HCl according to the question is 20 grams. If 20 grams of HCl will give us X grams of CO2, the next thing is to cross multiply. And that is going to give us X times 71 will be equal to 44 times 20. So X will be equal to 44 times 20 over 71. And this will give us 12.39 grams of carbon dioxide. Now, recall from my definition of limiting reagent that I told you that limiting reagent is that particular reactant that is going to give the least or the smallest amount of product. The mass of carbon dioxide that is given to us by calcium carbonate is 8.8 grams. The mass of carbon dioxide that is given to us by HCl is 12.39 grams. 8.8 grams is lower than 12.39 grams. So what that tells us is that calcium carbonate is the limiting reagent. So, from the calculations above, calcium carbonate is the limiting reagent. Therefore, the mass of CO2 that can be generated will be equal to 8.8 grams. Thank you very much for listening. See you some other time.